What we're talking about is protecting ourselves from influences that have been hurt and then are hurtful.
Yeah.
Something happened in their world that's caused them this pain, and they then bring it over into your life.
Yes, that's
And
true.
that's where you have to sit back and you're going to have to come to grips with a very difficult decision
Yeah.
of putting up boundaries to protect yourself going forward. Because if the person that's caused you some pain in the past was able to get healed of that pain, they would not be bringing it over into your present.
That's right.
If you want to be a person that then continues the cycle of that pain and bringing it into your kid's life or other friends' lives, then don't worry about distance yourself or getting healed from it.
Right.
But if you want to be different, if you want to stop the curse with that influence and not allow it to be carried on, then you have to say, this year is going to be different for me. And I'm going to control to the best of my ability, not the person, but the person's influence that they're going to have in my life.
That's
so
right.
we actually have to be upfront and say, let me see past the person here. I'm not hurting a person. I'm not doing this to hurt anybody. I'm doing this to protect and help myself from the influence of the person who's been hurt.
Exactly.
Hurt people.
Hurt
people.
Yes.
Cursed people. Curse people.
That's true.
And some have had experiences in their past, and for whatever reason, they have not dealt with that hurt or that curse, and they then want to continue to bring it on to us. We have to say, wait, that influence, if I'm going to be feeling different in the future, I've got to remove that influence out of my life. And I got a feeling this will be one of the hardest things some of our listeners have ever had to do.
Right.
Because it means letting people just be themselves. Because you can't change them.
No, you can't change people. And it's very hard for us when our hearts are tied to those people. You know, one of the things that I had to learn is that toxic nature and some of the manifestations of that and the behavior was not my fault. And I had a very hard, long road in believing that because it's just, I think it's a good healed heart that says, if I do something different, if I do something good, then I'll reap good from this person. And who wants to believe that that's not going to be true, that you could do something good for someone and not get good back? But when you're dealing with a broken person, a wounded person that isn't coming into the relationship saying, listen, I've been wounded, I've been hurt, and I need to get healed. When people can't talk healthy and do healthy things for themselves, then for the most part, you're not going to reap the harvest of anything good from that person because they don't even know how to treat themselves right. They stay in a place of brokenness. So it's not an easy task, but it is something that is required. You've got to do it if you want to stay healthy. You said it's not easy for some of our listeners. The reality is there's a lot of people that won't ever do it. They'll stay in a toxic cycle forever. And I decided I wasn't going to stay in that toxic cycle because I loved my relationship with you too much. I wanted to save my marriage. I did not want my kids to have to know what manipulation from a parent looked like. I never wanted them to experience that because that wasn't in you and that is not in me. And I had to kill it and cut the head off of it so that it wouldn't go into the next generation. Because it is learned. You know, it's a responsive thing that you can easily pick up on and learn. And I was not about to let any one of my 4 kids be a target.
Now, you know, the people look at you and think, oh, she's so sweet. Look at Pastor Mary. Well, there's a strength to you that you had to definitely learn. And this experience that you had with your father is what gave you that strength. We can go back, oh goodness, just before we got married and your mom was in our world. And she tells a story to our kids about when she was dealing with the dysfunctional behavior of your father.
Yeah.
And we don't want to speak ill of him. He's passed. But this is just for the sake of people being aware.
Right.
Okay. So we're sharing a little, being transparent here, sharing a little personal things here. But he was not good to your mom. And so she was in the kind of minister's wife, evangelist's wife seat, thinking, I got to love him. I got to love him. I got to pray for him. I got to get him through this, and I got to stay with him. And then I came across a book from James Dobson way back in the day when I used to listen to his ministry, and it was simply Love Must Be Tough.
Yeah.
And introduced that book to your mom.
It changed her life.
And that changed her life. That let her know, wait a minute, real love is strong.
And confronts.
It has to confront.
Yes.
And the reason you confront this situation, either passively or not, or aggressively, is because you want to say to the person that you love, I love you too much to let you stay the same.
That's right.
And not keep bringing that kind of hurt to our relationship. I love you that much, but I also love myself.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to make the change, then I have to make the change for myself as well.
That's right.
And that helped your mom stand up, get up on her legs, and be strong. And ultimately, your dad made the decision to end the marriage, not your mom.
Not my mom.
Because your mom was willing to hang in there and love him, but she set the right boundaries, and he couldn't respect those boundaries. So he then had to make a decision for himself, which then opened the door for your mom to experience a level of blessing by a man that walked into her life just a couple of years later.
Oh, yeah.
And blessed her abundantly. And, oh
my gosh, the story's incredible.
It would have never happened, though, man,
no.
if your mom didn't get strong. And then you were left with a dad. Your mom walked away from that after he filed for divorce. Y'all still had to deal with that.
Yes, we did.
And that's when we saw you. Your heart was out there. You wanted a relationship with your dad. You loved your dad.
Yeah.
You still respected him. You still honored him. But then now our kids get older, come on the scene.
Right.
Our kids are older. And what happened?
I saw that the pattern or the behavior was not changing. I also realized that in my little girl daughter's wish heart, what I was fantasizing would happen in my life, that, okay, I'll get his attention. I'll be strong. And it didn't work. I'll confront him and I'll tell him the truth. And then he'll respond, and he didn't. My sisters will band together and we'll confront him. Nothing. We'll get married and he'll love our husbands. And then he'll want to be around us more and he'll want to do things right. No, did not move the needle with Dad. He just kept trying to figure out how he could play us all in the chess game. Then I thought, I'll have a son and we'll give him the middle name after my father and be a namesake. And that'll do it. That'll turn his heart. That'll soften his heart. And none of that was happening. And it wasn't really moving the needle. It was setting me up for almost more opportunities for me to get hurt, because Dad just he just felt more threatened. It was never better. It seemed to always be worse. And I remember you and I you stayed out of it to the best of your ability. I have to say, you handled that very well. You had to trust me and you had to trust God, but you also let me know how you felt about things.
Right. Because you were getting hurt.
I kept getting hurt.
Seeing you hurt all the time.
And it was awful. And I remember the kids were very, very small. And I drove to where he was and we met to talk. And I had seen him several times before that. And he did not even know my kids' names. Mm-hmm. And you can chalk that up to, a grandpa that's not thinking, but it wasn't. He was still so stuck in himself and his own bitterness and anger, because brokenness turns to bitterness if you don't get healing. Mm-hmm. And then we're all stuck with that bitter taste in our mouth too.
Say it again though.
Brokenness turns to bitterness if you don't get healing.
Yeah.
And once someone gets bitter, I couldn't heal my father. You can't heal the person in your life that's got that toxic nature. You're not equipped. I was not equipped to heal my dad. Mm-hmm. That wasn't my responsibility to heal my father.
Counselor told us that. You're not your father's counselor.
No.
You're his daughter.
That's it. And he was responsible to reach out and get healing and get wholeness, That wasn't on me. But I felt somehow like, well, we're his daughters and we're the only ones and we could reach him. When I found out that wasn't true and I released that and let that go, I did feel like somebody took a key to a lock on my heart and just said, hey, you're free now. This is not your responsibility. That is literally what it felt like.
Yeah.
That I could say, I don't have to go and sit in a mall and meet with you and have you not know my kids' names and have you sit there and go, now, which one is that one?
Yeah.
I don't have to do that. That was hurtful. I don't have to pick up the phone every single time you call with something dramatic or you leave a long message on my phone, or thank God back then we didn't text because he probably would have blown up my phone. But I don't have to do that. We can set the terms of this relationship in my direction.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to set the terms in your direction anymore. You're not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
That's not easy.
Mm-mm.
But the first thing that helps you get there is to decide that's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
You don't have to make the steps right away to do that. But the hardest thing is to decide, now I know what's right. I've made a decision. This is what I'm going to do. Get some help and some counsel, how to lay that out. We've got phenomenal studies on how to set boundaries that are available to us, great resources. You don't even need to go to a counselor.
Yeah. I didn't even realize how much of our early years in marriage was absorbed in this until I went back and I started cleaning out a library of books that I had. And Mary, talk about boundaries. We're discussing it. We did a whole study on boundaries.
We did.
That whole love must be tough. Because we deal with people.
Right.
And people are hurt. People sometimes are dysfunctional. We have to always prepare ourselves for that one that really does not want to do what it takes to get healed.
No, it's true.
And be a blessing to people in their life. So we can't let our bleeding heart just lead us, or else even as leaders in what we do, we could get bogged down in people's dysfunction, thinking, oh, we'll pray them through it, or God will show up and help them. But, your dad, he went through a tough time in his early years. Something happened as an adult with his father that really hurt the family, and he struggled with that. But he had a choice. He had a choice to choose healing and not allow that dysfunction to continue on into now his relationship with his kids.
Right.
So I want to be sympathetic to people that are going through things, but I also want to say to them, hey, stop.
Yeah.
Figure out a way to get healed. And we're going to talk about that in the next episode, how we should respond then to people that are not willing to go get healed.
That's right.
In order to protect ourselves.